A.J. Potter's opera Patrick was commissioned especially by Telefís Éireann in 1960. The original intention was to have the work ready for broadcast on the 31st of December 1961, that is, the opening night of the new Irish television station. But that was to prove impossible due to the vast challenges that such a project presented for all concerned. Another major obstacle was the death of Dermot Troy in 1962, who was to sing the title role. As it happened, the opera was not completed until that year, and it took another 2 years before it was ready for recording. It was eventually broadcast on St. Patrick's Day, 1965. While the story of this opera is based on the life of Ireland's patron saint, a number of details have been adapted to modernise it. Patrick was a Blitz baby evacuated from war-torn England to the safety of County Monaghan, where he grew up and gained employment in an iron foundry. During the 1960s, he started to hear voices in his head despite the roar of the factory machinery. These were the voices of the poverty-stricken immigrants and natives in the English Midlands. Irish, West Indians and English souls cried out to him from across the sea. He reluctantly responded and travelled to be among them to preach the message of peace, love and the Holy Trinity. While among that marginalised community, he came to the attention of Bella, a nurse, who tried to seduce him. Patrick responded by advocating the virtue of God's love over human love. This is not the only element that reminds us of Richard Strauss's opera Salome, in which John the Baptist remains impervious to the wily tricks of that most dangerous femme fatale from the Bible. Salome, who is driven mad by John the Baptist's rejection of her, famously demands his head on a platter. Bella has the same hell hath no fury reaction and condemns Patrick as a pervert and hypocrite, and he is nearly lynched by the mob as a result. But when he warns them that his martyrdom would do the preaching for him, they backed down, and Bella is eventually persuaded by his heartfelt appeal to truth. The opera concludes with all the characters singing the words of St. Patrick's prayer, the cry of the deer, Christ be with me, Christ within me, Christ here behind me, and so on. So how did this opera come to be composed in the first place? We must look to America for the answer, with the broadcast of the first ever television opera, which was aired on Christmas Eve 1951. Giancarlo Menotti was commissioned by NBC New York to compose both the libretto and music of Amal and the Night Visitors. One of the managing consultants at NBC was the Irish-American Edward J. Roth, who had a strong interest in the arts. Roth was later appointed as the first Director General of Telefís Éireann in October 1960. Shortly after taking up his post in Donnybrook, he proposed the idea for an Irish television opera. Archie Potter, who had had a long-standing association with Radio Éireann by that time, was commissioned to compose the music, while the poet, dramatist and broadcaster Donogh MacDonagh wrote the libretto. There was also a more local precedent for television opera in Ireland. That was Joan Trimble's Blind Rat, commissioned and broadcast to over 3 million viewers in 1957. This was just one such opera commissioned by the BBC. The first was composed by Arthur Benjamin and had been recently broadcast, and another by Benjamin Britten was in the offing. It seems that the new Irish television station wanted to keep up with the neighbours. By the time he had composed Patrick in 1962, Potter was familiar to Irish radio audiences as a broadcaster and as the composer of many entertaining orchestral and choral works commissioned for the Radio Éireann Light Orchestra and Chor Radio Éireann. The Overture to a Kitchen Comedy and variations on a popular tune demonstrate Potter's suave ability to blend different styles and techniques, even within the one work. He was, like Stanford, a supreme musical craftsman, and one who could easily move between high classical and popular musical idioms without compromising either. In addition to projecting clear melodic lines against colourful orchestration, he was also expert at composing humorous episodes in his extended works. These skills were recognised and utilised by Radio Éireann. In many ways, he was ideally suited to such a medium, and not just because he could compose the right type of music for radio. After all, there were many composers who could and did arrange folk music for the station. Potter, however,